Alright, this is Demon Eclipse with, well, doing a video I'd been planning on doing for a while now. It is a tops video, if you will. The top tanks I currently have in my garage. Now, due to the way I've set up everything, I have only 2 tanks that I cannot include in my top tanks. So, here we go. Please note that all tank choices are based on how much fun I have with them and generally what I can do with them. Now, number 12 on my list, T-34-85. Speed, good. Fairly good acceleration, and can get around things fairly easy. Good flanking tank. Survivability, none. Don't expect to bounce any shells off of this. I certainly don't, and I'm not disappointed most of the times. Once in a while, you will get the odd bounce where it's just what the fuck happened, and you'll move on because after that, someone else will shoot you and you'll be dead. Pretty much a 2-3 shot tank against anything slightly higher tier than it, or just plain, what the hell am I doing in this match? Firepower. Since the move to the 85mm, it has been rather disappointing. I preferred it when it had the 100mm. The rate of fire offset compared to damage and penetration was great in my opinion. It turned it into a sniper tank. 85, it's a brawler now, but it does not have the armor to be a brawler. It just simply does not. There is no surface on this tank that cannot be penetrated by its contemporaries. Adaptability, well, firepower. 85mm, like I said, disappointing. I prefer the 100mm. 85mm, it has its moments, but 144mm average penetration and around, what was it, 270mm average damage. Well, 170 average damage. It just feels really disappointing, piss poor gun. Adaptability, it is rather adaptable. Or at least it was when it had the 100mm. The 85, it is still adaptable, but you're pretty much just pissing in the wind against anything higher tier than you that has good armor. IS-3, for instance, I have a very hard time damaging that from any angle. Most of the time I'm shot by it or one of its friends. And with the speed, currently calculated, I'm always ahead of my allies fairly quickly, which I don't really like. But it is adaptable, can get around things fairly easily, so long as the attention of the enemy is held by your allies. Again, allies do not cooperate, you cannot do much with this tank. Fun, it can be fun. You get that odd bounce once in a while. You're against lower tier tanks, it can be excessively fun. Unfortunately, endgame is everyone gets higher tier tanks and blow the crap out of lower tier tanks. Overall, number 12. Number 11 on my list, Jagdpanzer IV. If you called this one, pat yourself on the back. I don't really care. Speed, good. Very good for city fighting. Fairly agile, but it is a tank destroyer. Keep that in mind. You have a very limited firing cone. If someone gets around you, you're screwed. Most contemporaries can penetrate your front armor no matter what the angle is. I've bounced on occasion, so long as they don't aim for the gun itself, they will probably penetrate you. Survivability, hence, is low. Not much health, usually be 3-shotted by some things, 2-shotted by others. Armor is bad. Low profile, though. If you can find a good firing spot, you're usually in good position. Firepower, 88mm or 10.5. Take your pick. 10.5 is good for just about everything, but it has a very long reload rate. The 8.8 short, good firing rate, okay penetration, but tier 7, tier 8, don't expect to kill anything. Same tier or lower tier, that's where you'll kill them. Adaptability really depends upon how you play it. You can play this fast and frantic. You can play this slow and methodic. It can do both, but it really doesn't excel at anything. It can be used as a sniper tank, but the 8.8 is the only gun you'd want to use that for, and it can on occasion have those weird shells that just go in the middle of nowhere. Overall, 11. Number 10, VK3002 Daimler Benz. Not that bad, but I've had better. The problem with the Daimler Benz is that it's a tier 6 masquerading as a tier 7, and it doesn't do very well in its position. Speed. It's actually fairly fast. It's got good acceleration. Only problem is it doesn't seem fast enough. Right now I've got the first engine on it. I need the engine upgrade to really see what it's capable of. I will get that fairly soon, but right now it's in desperate need of an engine upgrade. I'll get that as soon as possible, see what it does after that. After the engine upgrade, I'm expecting to get it up to very much better acceleration so that I don't have to worry about getting into position as badly. Survivability, you can get some fairly odd bounces off this tank, but don't count on them. 80 millimeters of armor on the front slope. If you angle it right, you can get some odd bounces off of it, but there's so much crap sticking out of the tank that if someone knows how to aim or they get a lucky shot, you won't bounce. The turret armor is the same exact turret. You got a tier, I believe it was 4 or 5, the PZ4. It's the same exact freaking turret. They just keep on making you re-research it. It's a tier 4 turret. Simple as that. Don't count on it for anything. Firepower, again, 8.5 or 8.8 or 10.5 or 8.8 rather. 10.5, you can be used for multiple different occasions. 8.8, it's more situational. Again, about the same thing as Jake Panzer 4. 10.5 is good if you're going against same tier or high tier. 8.8 is good for same tier or lower tier. Really what you want to go against. Adaptability. Good scooter tank can get around fairly quickly, but you have to count on support. I do not. That's why I'm not very good with it. You have to count on support. I'm just too lazy to sit around waiting for my allies to catch up with me. Fun. It's fun when you get that odd bounce. It's fun when you somehow one-shot something you don't believe you should have been able to. But the fun times can run out quickly because if you, your allies, or the enemy didn't do everything correctly, you'll end up being blown up rather quickly. Number 9, my M18 Hellcat. What can I say? Glass cannon. Speed. Fast. Acceleration could be a little bit better, mind you, but one of the fastest tanks in my garage. Actually, the fastest tank in my garage. Survivability. Low. You have to get in position and quickly and make sure they cannot shoot at you because you do not have armor to speak of. Firepower. 90 millimeter, okay at sniping, but don't really count at it. The rate of fire could be a bit faster in my opinion, but again, it's just opinion. Less than 10-second reload rate, I wish it was a bit faster. Or at least I wish I had the 170 millimeter penetrating gun rather than the 160. It makes all the difference. Adaptability. Shoot and scoot is really what you got to go for on this. You can scoot around the enemy and shoot him in the ass, but you got to make sure you scoot while you're reloading. It's also a fairly competent sniper tank, but you have to make sure you have good defilade on the enemy and you have good spotters. If there are no spotters, your view range will let you down. It has, on occasion with me, radio range could be a bit better as well. Fun? It can be fun. Depends upon who you roll with. It doesn't really matter. Fun is my opinion, nothing else. It can be fun. It cannot be fun. I wish I had the better the next step up 90 millimeter on this, but that again is just opinion. Overall, 9. What can I say? 9. All right, number 8 is my T20 medium tank. If you didn't see this coming, then you really should have looked at the stats between the M18 and the T20. The T20 as a tier 7, speed, average. Not very good. Acceleration could be better in my opinion. I have everything maxed out, so he's going fairly slow. Survivability, little, low. Do not expect to survive in this tank for very long if you decide to be an assault head. It is not designed for that. It's designed to shoot and scoot just like the M18 Hellcat, but it has a little bit more health than the M18 Hellcat as it is a tier 7. Same gun as the M18 Hellcat. It just has a slightly slower reload rate. If you can get around people, shoot them, it's fairly good. That's the adaptability. You have to flank. Have your heavies annoy the heck out of the other heavies, then try to get around as fast as possible so you can shoot the enemy heavies in the side, in the rear, or just try to make sure mediums and lights do not get past you through the myriad of little routes throughout the maps. Unfortunately, most maps only have 3 or 4 lanes of approach, so you really don't have to worry about that. Fun can be on occasion fun depending on what type of match you get into. Again, if I'm against tier 9s and 10s, it's not fun at all. Tier 6, 7s, 5s, that's fun. It's not fun for the tier 5s, but it's fun for me. I can kill them fairly easily. Well, some of them just take way too many shells to kill me. Though if they have a high enough reload rate and there's a lot of them, you can die fairly easily because, again, there is no armor on this tank. None to speak of anyways. Overall, it's my 8 in my list. All right, number 7, ARL 44. Now I'm suppose you're a little surprised considering the last video I put on the ARL 44 that it's such middle of my 7. Well, that's because I said generally I like it. With its starting turret, you can actually bounce a fair amount of shells. Don't expect it much, but what's really surprising about the ARL-44 is that it's a sniper tank. Pure and simple, it's a great sniper tank for Tier 6. Starting 90mm, the same one you had on the BDR G1B, is great as a sniper gun. BDR G1B was a piece of rolling shit. Then you get the ARL-44 and it's so much better with the exact same gun. It's really amazing, in my opinion. Now, speed. Slow. Then again, I do not have the top engine on this tank, so it could equivocally get better. Maybe. Perhaps. I don't really think so. Oh well. Survivability. If they aim for the turret, no. You can get some good bounces, however, both off the turret and the main front hull. That is an extreme angle. I have bounced off of it on occasion. I have had enemies bounce off of it on occasion. I'm surprised when both happen. I just don't get it once in a while. It's 120mm of penetration, but the angle is so massive that really you can bounce practically anything off of it within reason, 2 tiers max. Let's see here. Bad thing is there's a lot of weak points on this tank, and I mean a lot. Firepower, currently have the second 90mm on there. Fairly good for its tier 6. It's got about 160mm of penetration. It could be better. Once I get the 105 or the top 90mm, it'll be excellent. I have a German gun on a tier 6, basically. Adaptability, it's a sniper tank. It's not a front-rolling tank. It doesn't have the firepower to be a front-rolling tank. And if you run into another front-rolling tank designed to be front-rolling, you're pretty much screwed because there's just not enough to this tank to be front-rolling. It's not. Fun? It can be fun. On occasion, yes. Everything can be fun on occasion, but good sniper tank. I can shoot the heck out of people with this thing. Reload rate, I wish it was a little bit better, but oh well. Overall, And it's my tier, it's my 7. Number 7. All right, number 6 on my list is my IS. Now, IS, speed. Okay, it has fair amount of acceleration to get up to that speed, but the speed still seems kind of low. It doesn't seem fast either. On occasion it can, but most of the time it actually feels kind of slow. I'm not exactly sure why that is. Survivability, it's a rather squishy tank in my opinion. I wish the IS had a bit more armor to it. With the people you're going against at tier 7, they can and will penetrate you quite easily, and that can be a problem. Firepower, 122, the second one of course. Has an okay rate of fire. I really wish it was a bit faster, but I've had worse. Under 13-second reload rate is fairly good in my opinion, especially for the 122. Penetration I wish was a bit better. I have one-shot people on occasion with it, mostly tier 5s. I think I one-shot a tier 6 once, but it was like a TD or a, well, SPGs, duh. Adaptability. It has fairly high adaptability for a heavy tank. It's not really a front runner. It can on occasion, depending on who it's going against, but don't expect to front run a lot with it. It's really more of a flanking heavy. Its acceleration does allow it to do that, but if you know a flank is going to fall, don't try to go around, try to reinforce. Fun. Yeah, I bounced some good shells off this. I've one-shot with it. I've been one-shot in it. I didn't like that, but yeah, on occasion. Like I said, on occasion. Um, yeah, that's about it. That is 6 on my list. Now, when I look at all this imperially measured, number 5 would be my KV3. I have had greater fun with this tank on occasion. Since it got moved to tier 7, it's a bit harder to play with, but still great deals of fun. Speed, I must say, it feels fast. It's not fast, but it feels fast. It can get up to its max acceleration fairly quickly. Going uphill, it's slow. What can you expect? Survivability is fairly high for a tier 7 with the armor it does. Everything's angled up the wazoo. You can expect to bounce a lot of shells off this. Have had a few steel walls with it, but don't expect to get a lot of them. Firepower. 122 millimeters penetrate 122 millimeter gun, same gun as on the IS. It's a bigger frame. I hold about the same amount of ammunition, but my rate of fire doesn't go up even if I have 2 loaders. So I'm trying to figure out what the heck they did to this that I'm not getting a better firing rate despite having 2 loaders and more room for them to move around in. Other than that, the gun's the same as on the IS. The slower frame of the KV3 doesn't allow it to flank as much, which can limit its usability in higher tier matches. But it's all about knowing where to aim, aiming there, and hitting there. In which case, close to mid range, you're golden. Long range, on occasion, I can snipe with it, but it's really a toss up. I snipe better in this tank than the IS though, so this is really the tank you want to go for if you want a Russian sniper heavy. Fun. Probably one of my funner tanks, yes. Once before the move to the T-150, I had great fun with this tank. Then they moved to the T-150, and I got screwed because all my stats moved to the T-150, and I started with a new KV3. And I hated that because the T-150 did not earn that rank. I hated the T-150. Firepower was crap, armor was crap, speed was crap. It really about sums it up. Overall, my tier 5 simply because it's not as adaptable as I'd like it to be. It's a front runner. That's about the only thing I've been able to do well with it. I can flank on occasion, but it's usually when the enemy has spittoons shoved up their nose. overall. Again, my tier 5. All right, number 4, my ELC AMX. This moved to tier number 4 simply because of how much fun I have with it. Not much else. Speed, second fastest tank I have, but has the greatest acceleration of any tank I have, which means I can get up to that top speed no time flat. Survivability, there is none. Literally, do not expect to take any hits in this tank and survive. If you're against tier 7s, you're screwed. Tier 6s, some of them can one-shot you. Believe me. Tier 5s, yeah, you can do some damage. Firepower. 90 millimeter with 170 millimeters of penetration. I'm surprised people aren't calling this thing OP like they did the KV. The KV back when it had the 2 turret, wasn't separated. Everyone called it 107 OP simply because I had 167 millimeters of penetration. Now I got it on this light piece of shit. It's fast. They they nerfed its turret traverse. This tank used to have 360 turret traverse. They removed that for some odd reason, simply because they couldn't code into the game that it can only turn its turret when it's stopped. I'm sure they could, they're just kind of lazy. But I'm not sure the restraints of the engine. I know a few engines would be able to do that. I'm not sure about this one. My biggest pet peeve is the lack of turret rotation when at all. I got like 45 degrees in either direction. If it had 360-degree rotation, maybe drop it to like 22 degrees a second. I'd love it because the traverse speed of the tracks would totally make up for it. You wouldn't have to worry about anything. Adaptability, shoot, scoot, scout, flank. You can practically do it all in this tank. The only biggest pet peeve I have is that, well, besides no armor, is that it takes 12 seconds to reload the gun when you have the 90 millimeter on it, and you don't want to load up anything besides the 90 millimeter on it, because the 75 millimeter you get is utter crap. Fun. It's a troll tank. You can have great fun in this if you drive it correctly, if you get good placement, if your allies know what the hell they're doing. Overall, it's my number 4. Number 3 in my list, my Panzerkampfwagen 6 Tiger P, the Porsche, the long dog thingy. I'm sorry. Um, Mostly I put this in here to my number 3 slot because of its survivability. However, going through the list, speed can feel fast on occasion, but isn't really. Don't expect to be at the leader of the pack, though you still will be if you're going max speed and everyone's dragging their heels, like happens way too freaking often in my opinion. Survivability, 200 millimeters of armor on the front, 80 on the sides. 80 on the sides, don't expect to bounce anything off of that. If you angle it correctly, it can happen on occasion, but don't expect it. The 200 millimeters on the front is your bread and butter. You want to make sure you angle that and protect all your weak spots because you have way too many of them. Firepower, 88 millimeter, good 203 penetration. Standard shell damage is about 220 or so, 230, something like that. I wish it was a bit higher, but there's nothing really I can complain about. Rate of fire kind of makes up for it, but it could be a little bit faster in my opinion. Though the shell was massive from what I've seen. So, adaptability, it's it's really designed to be a sniper tank like most German tanks, but the biggest thing is it can be an adequate brawler if you know what you're doing and if the enemy doesn't. That you really have to take into consideration what the enemy knows and what they do not know. If they do not know how to brawl adequately, you are golden. If they do, you are screwed. Simple as that. That is number 3. You know, when I first planned on doing this, I planned on making an overlay and all that other crap, but, well, it turned out to be too much work. So here's number 2, a T-29. Now, Well, this is my second. I think it's also one of the tanks I have the most problems with, simply because it seems rather limited in what it can do. Anyways, speed, average. Average acceleration as well. I have the top engine on here right now, so it's not as slow as it used to be, but it is still fairly slow. Acceleration is not as high as I wish it was, but you can work with it. Survivability. Don't show your hull if you can help it. Believe me. Turret armor, you can bounce practically anything off of it so long as the enemy doesn't know where to shoot. Right now, for some reason, the ears turned invulnerable to just about everything, so you don't have to worry about them as much as you used to. Um, but hull, no hull armor at all to speak of. If you're out in the open and someone shoots you tracks, you're pretty much a fried chicken at that point. Firepower, 105 millimeter with 198 millimeters penetration. The range between high and low is 50 millimeters on either side, so it can be a problem. Standard shell damage, I wish it was a bit higher, but I would think that would come with more penetration as well. Average about 160 or so. 270 shell damage. I wish it was higher really, because I really can't one-shot anything within my area with that, or deal significant damage. I probably shot more people with this one than anything else and not had them die or do significant damage to it for how much the shell costs me. Cheapest shells would probably be the Porsche right now for the high tier tanks. Overall, second, fun, can be fun. You just have to know what you're doing and not stick your ass out too much, because you will die a lot. Now, number one, most fun, most adaptable, I'd have to say. It's KV2. Now, the 107 on the KV2, high reload rate, good damage, good penetration for tier 6. But matchmaking's a little skewed, so you go a bit higher than that. And you'll soon learn that the 107 does not have enough penetration. 152, on the other hand, can do damage no matter what. It can do great amounts of damage no matter what. And if you actually penetrate with it, bye-bye enemy is the best way I can put it. Speed, feels fast, but it's not as fast as I'd like it to be. Um, Survivability, low tier tanks high, high tier tanks low. Average, anything you want to say about it. If you're against lower tier tanks and they don't have good guns, you can pretty much bounce every single shot off yourself. Higher tier tanks, they can pretty much pen you no matter what. You can get the odd bounce off the mantelpiece, but it can be penetrated rather easily by higher tier tanks as well. Firepower. What am I talking about? It's the 152 millimeter. Reload rate is crap, but if you hit someone with it, like hit a T1 in the side, boom, they're gone. Hit an jumbo in the side, they're gone. You just have to know where to hit them. 107 is better against lower tier tanks simply because the reload's faster, but against high tier tanks, either you damage them or you do not. That's where the 152 comes in. You'll pretty much always damage them, and it has happened. I mean, I remember matches in the jumbo when I had the 105. I killed things I shouldn't have been able to kill simply because I did HE damage. That is the premise of the 152. Big ass gun, big ass explosion, damage all around. Adaptability, that's another point of the guns. 107, faster reload rate, kill little shits. 152, slow reload rate, can kill everything. 107 can also excel depending on how you aim in higher tier matches as well. But if you can't aim well, you will not do damage. Again, 152. Fun? Kablooey blows practically everything else out of the park so long as I have good allies backing me up. If you try to run solo with this thing, you will be screwed rather quickly unless the enemy are morons and decide, oh wait, he's got the 152 and just fired a shell. I'm going to sit here until he reloads. Seriously, there are enemies that do that. I do not understand why in the world they would do that. Because it is just hilarious. It's like, Okay, I fired my shot, I'm backing up, I'm reloading, and they just don't appear ever again. Until I'm done reloading, they appear again, and I shoot them. It's hilarious. Overall, number one, fun tank. I can excel with it, I can do heavy damage with it, but at the end of the day, I just wish it was a little bit faster. Or had a faster reload rate at least. Alright, so that was my top 12, actually. Because of the way I had set up my logo, that's the way I had to do it, if you're wondering. It should have been obvious with the transitions, but... Okay, now, I am going to be spending some money, getting some gold, and then picking up more garage slots so I can actually get my top 5. So that, like, this in my opinion was rather poorly done because these aren't my top tanks in the game. They're the top tanks that I have, starting from 12 to 1. But that's how I feel right now. And I can't think of anything else. Overall, I can't think of anything else. I had tried to come up with an overlay for this, a proper overlay that I could show everything properly in with numbers and statistics and all that other jazz, but I'm not that good at video editing, so I just came up with what I did, as easy and cheap as it was to come up with. So, this has been Demonocalypse. Thank you for watching.